You taking requests?
Yes, I am.
Swallow your head and leave.
Thank you. That's very supportive.
Just trying to make you laugh.
Ha ha ha. You ready?
I'm ready. Boom shakalaka.
Welcome back to Dad's Meet World, and boom shakalaka to you as well, Brett. I am your pod daddy number one this week, Tyler.
And I'm pod daddy number 2, bringing you
Vast emotional damage.
Very nice. Yeah, I had a bad feeling that you were going to start getting more on the board this week. Welcome back to Dad's Meet World. Your weekly deep dive into that classic 90s show known as Boy Meets World. Real excited to be here, Brett. How are you?
I'm excited to be here. It's just a very busy week. Tomorrow morning, I am starting Smart Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 straight days of annual conference for my day job, which means 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning till at least 5 o'clock at night, straight of combination of my normal work, which is social media, managing, photography, video overseeing, recording, producing. And one of those days I'll sit in on a session and do a little teaching. During a lunchtime, I'll be recording a bunch of extra videos. And at the end of it all, on Saturday, after everything's done, I'll be putting together a recap video of at least 4 of those days. That has to be done before everything's torn down so we can post it. And I have this 4th year in, so I mean, it's old hat to me, but this is the busiest time of year for my day job. So tonight is kind of the last few minutes of rest I get before I dive into it headlong tomorrow. So I'm happy to be here. How are you, Tyler?
Well, Brett, I'm also happy to see you, to be talking about Boy Meets World, but if you had asked me yesterday, and we recorded yesterday, we could have had a very nice, lovely chat about this episode and life in general, but oh boy. So to start, I just have to say that the wife and I got to go on a date for the first time in a while, and it was nice. We went to a restaurant by ourselves. Yes. We literally just sat there and we're like, hey, no one is demanding anything of us right now. And it's really quiet. It's so nice. I was like, do we want appetizers? Of course we want appetizers. We are eating for ourselves.
Of course. No one's there to steal them from you. You got to take advantage of it. Yeah.
Yes. So much so. And it was we were eating at a place called Peak and Peak, which is a ski resort near us. And it's a golf resort as well in the summertime. So that's just nice. And we were eating in their restaurant. We actually spent a weekend at a retreat a year ago. And so we were kind of just feeling reminiscent and wanted to go somewhere close to us. So we went there and had a nice time. And they have an old golf course, basically a walking trail at this point, because I think it was like a decade ago they redesigned their golf course and left a huge chunk of just basically open field, and they still have the pathway so you can walk the pathway. It's really nice. And so we walked around for a little bit, just got the chance to talk, and no one was trying to interrupt us and speak over us or have us listen to anything, And as much as I love my baby boy and enjoy hearing his thoughts on the world, it was just nice to hold my wife's hand and have no one else tugging at her or a dog trying to pull us in a different direction. So it was just nice.
Yep. I
so
have
to bring
been there
all
many
that
times.
crashing down, my dog decided that I didn't need my pillow anymore. So while I was at work today, he decided to go in our room because normally we just leave the dog to roam the house a little bit because he'll just lay on the couch and he's fine. He's been kind of getting into some stuff here and there as of late, some little pieces of clothes and whatnot. And he broke me today because I I've had this pillow since before we were married, and it provided me the best sleep I've ever gotten. Like when I was in high school, I legit would stay up as long as I could and would just pass out because I could never fall asleep. And I started using this pillow that my in-laws didn't want, and I would clunk out immediately. I'd be like, I have never slept this good my entire life, and so I no longer have that pillow. So I won't be sleeping good for, I don't know, 2 weeks maybe at this point. So until we can get a replacement pillow. But yeah, so it's just fun. I'm excited. It's great.
I'm sorry, Tyler. Is Buddy Jones banished to the outdoors for a couple of weeks?
No, we're too kind. Although he did have to go into the back while we were at our son's game today. So yeah, it's just this is the last week of school for us as we're recording, so we got a lot of different emotions going on right now. I'm ending my one job. Well, actually, both jobs I'm technically ending for the season, but the one job I'll be done with officially at the end of this week. My oldest son will be done with school, and then other things. Oh, baseball season is also coming to a close as well. So we just got a lot going on, a lot for us to deal with, and hopefully everything's going to work out. So I think you should probably hit that synopsis before I start getting mad about something else my dog's chewed up lately.
All right. Well, this week we are diving in. We are more than 2/3 of the way through this season 2. We're looking at episode 17, On the Air. Mr. Feeney makes the decision to pull the plug on Cory and Shawn's radio program at the school when their format takes an inappropriate turn. Now, this episode, written by the team of Mark Blutman and Howard Busgang, directed by David Trainer, originally aired on February 10th, 1995, and currently enjoys a 7.7 rating on IMDb. And as we play our favorite game of
Vast emotional damage.
we'll look at the Nielsen numbers. Tyler, last week's episode pulled in a 19.6 million rating. What do you think On the Air pulled in? Well, let's look at this two ways. What do you think it should have pulled in, and what do you think it did pull in?
What should have pulled in would probably be about like 12 mil. What it probably pulled in was probably closer to like 18, I'm guessing.
18.8 million is the correct number.
Very nice. Let's just put this warning in now. We're going to have some very heavy get off my lawn energy for this recording. So if you don't want to hear some dads, well, at least this dad getting a little frustrated and a little annoyed and potentially start yelling, I highly recommend stepping away now.
They want
Go ahead and
you
leave
to
a 5-star review. Yes, they want you to take the roles.
That's my only old man on the board.
I've been trying to think for this whole week of ways we could use that clip from like from now on in every single episode. So
I'm keeping it on the board. I just got to find a way to work it in.
Perfect.
Well, take us away, Tyler.
Whenever we record next together, you should let me have control of the board.
It'll sit between us.
So we start the episode in a room we've never been in before, but I'm sure it's a different classroom setting that we have been in before, but you know, it just looks different now because it's a radio station randomly in the school.
Yeah.
Apparently it's been 10 years since Pirates Radio has been on the air and their back-end business.
It looked a lot like the newspaper headquarters.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah. So 10 years of silence and Patriot Radio is back.
Yeah. So, okay, I couldn't get any deep dives on the actual information on the equipment, but let's just talk about this real quick. Mm-hmm. You know, radio like the school radios kind of became popular like 60s and 70s ish time period. So the technology we're talking about, especially if they stopped using it like 10 years ago, give or take like 30 years old, like 20, 30 years old, something like that. Like, how good is this material actually going to be? Like, if you and I are using a mic, even from 10 or 5 years ago, 7 years ago, like, it's going to sound a lot different.
Yeah, I mean, what they're using is effectively a PA system. So, I mean, it can't be great. I mean, it's not really designed for more than just basic broadcast stuff. And, you know, you're going to get a really tinny sound. You're going to get maybe some, you know, audiophiles weigh in with us. But from my perspective, this setup, even in 1995, was not going to produce anything great, especially looking at the few speakers that we got to see. I mean, this was never going to be more than just a little bit higher end PA system at best. Because remember, John Adams High is not a well-off school.
Right. Well, in the way they do it, it looks like they hit a button, all of a sudden they're live. So does that just mean they're hitting the button to take over the intercom system? Because that's kind of what it feels like.
That would be my assumption. That's all I can figure.
So it kind of just feels like Alvin found a way for them to use the technology already there. Maybe they bought like one thing, and now they're able to tap in remotely or make it easier on you. So
yeah, and honestly, looking at the, you know, I took a lot of screen grabs from this studio, quote unquote studio, with the fun little phone boards. Those are fun to look at, by the way.
Yes,
and it's a very, you know, for 1995, it was a decent setup, but those microphones are not picking up what we think they're picking up.
no. Well, those two are like, you have to be right up on them or they're not going to hear you at all. So,
yeah, I think the bigger question here is, what kind of school is going to run radio programs throughout the school day? Are these like 3-minute long programs in between classes, or is this radio station running continuously throughout the school day?
Brett, you and I both know the answer to that question.
Yes, we do.
But I will say this is a trend in this era of randomly needing to have a radio station inside the school. And because I remember Saved by the Bell had an episode similar to this as well. And I mean, Fresh Prince eventually does something similar to this. Not exactly. I mean, gosh, Full House had a whole subplot of people having a radio station. So
Rush Hour
like
Renegades
coming at you.
Yes, the Elvis wannabe and the we'll say C tier comedian.
Oh, cut it out. Oh,
I'm sorry, Joey Gladstone, if you can't make it in San Francisco anything more than Ranger Joe got, you're C tier.
Ranger Joe. He's the best guy I know, Ranger Joe.
Anyway.
Okay. Anywho, so yeah, Feeney is on the mic trying to do the first broadcast. And again, okay, I know it's just comedy gold with him taking this serious, you know, and him starting it off. And it's another thing that he can put his cap on of, look what I'm doing. Look at the things I'm starting. But like, wouldn't he have some form of a, hey, sign up to be part of the new radio team? And, you know, we need like 5 shows for every single week. You know, you got to audition and you got to tell us what's going to be on there. And wouldn't there be a teacher advising it other than Turner? Because apparently Turner advises everything.
Yeah. I mean, Feeney's not even the faculty advisor for this. And we don't even find out Turner's the faculty advisor till halfway through the episode once the boys are kicked out of the studio.
It wasn't even on the board. Why wasn't it on the board?
Yeah, and why does Feeney think he has the finger on the pulse of today's youth when just back at Thanksgiving he's admitting his rock and roll contacts were so limited that he approved Cory? He's got brother. What was it? Brother. What's his face? And at the Coca Cabana room.
Yeah,
I'm blanking
Although I
on
do
the
love
name.
he has Alvin say hello, and he says, "No one likes a mycog."
Yeah, I mean it's funny, but I mean even in the heightened world of Boy Meets World universe, this is a bridge too far for how we get into this story.
Yeah. Do you like how they don't actually play really any actual music? Like they say that they're playing music, but then like
Mr. Perry
you really don't
Como.
actually hear it.
Yeah, you can say Perry Como, but you don't have the rights to actually broadcast this.
Yeah. Well, we transition to the lunchroom, where apparently this is where the main radio station is occurring, and Shawn is trying to cut the cord with a spoon.
A plastic spoon. I did clip some of this.
Look, Mr. Turner, you clip the wires and we'll cover for you.
You don't like what you hear? Get on the air and do better.
Us? On the radio?
Yeah. See if you can't squeeze it in between doing nothing at school and nothing at home.
Well, what are you saying? We don't do anything?
You know, we should think about that.
I don't wanna.
No, Shawn, maybe he's got a point. I mean, maybe if we became radio personalities, then we'd have personalities.
I don't want to do nothing.
Look, radio is just sitting around talking.
Like we are now?
Yeah, maybe you have to push a button.
How hard?
Like this.
Are you kidding me?
Okay, we'll do it.
We're naturals.
I've got a radio voice.
And I've got a radio face. So when can you get us on the air?
You guys are serious about this? I'll talk to Feeney after lunch.
Turner's got to talk to Feeney about getting them on the air. Turner is the advisor, supposedly. Now, normally, Blootman and Busgang give us really good episodes, but I mean, this is just... I don't have the energy to get off my lawn here.
That's fair. I'll do it for you, Brett. What is this nonsense? Like, what is this? To quote Turner, are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
Like, it's just, it feels lazy. This is the most episode has to episode, the most, let's just get into what the problem is. And you know what this feels like? Honest to goodness. This feels like the closest thing to a Saved by the Bell episode I've ever seen. Because Saved by the Bell, they're always doing episodes like this where it's like, well, this is the issue that we want to deal with. And then that's all they're doing. So like, this is literally what it feels like of just like, hey, for this one episode, let's have a radio station. And then it never comes back.
It really does feel like Michael Jacobs just came in and said, hey, I want the boys in a radio studio, figure it out. And it's just, this is how they got there.
Well, it's another episode where Cory and Shawn are trying to figure out where their place is. And I don't know, like, this is not a good episode. I don't want to drop the pretenses, but like, my goodness, this feels like just another episode. It feels almost fillerish. Like, it's this weird thing about this season where like we'll have this incredible, great episode of like Cory discovering more who he is or his relationships building and getting stronger. And then we have an episode like this where they are just wrong the entire time. And maybe Brett, we're just dads now. Maybe that's the problem. Because we're looking at this as dads. And the main thing I just want to get to, Brett, is this episode feels lazy. And I don't like that. I don't like that for the show. This show deserves better.
I agree. It really is. And I know in a season where you've got 23 episodes that it can be daunting. And, you know, we are used to, as consumers and even as dads, an era now of prestige TV where you've got 10, 13, 8-episode seasons where they can really focus in and hone in. And if you take all these fillerish episodes out of a Boy Meets World season, you're going to have 10, 12 really solid, fantastic episodes. So, I mean, I expect some of them, but this is just, it really does feel lazy.
Well, I think the problem is that this season has had incredible episodes. Like, let's be honest. We have this episode and then maybe one more slightly not that great episode, but the rest of them are all hits. So it's like we've had 3 to 4 bad episodes this season. Last season didn't have this many bad episodes. Like, I don't get it. And maybe just last season, like, I just relearned the love for that season, but gosh, this season is either amazing and incredible or just super disappointing.
The highs are higher, the lows are lower. Sophomore slump.
I mean, it really is true. I will say, trying to get back into this episode, that Shawn tries to say he has a radio face.
Yes. It's just...
no offense to any of us, but we have radio and or podcasting faces.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're a handsome man, Brett, but, you know, I know for a fact I do not have the face for TV, but I have the face for a podcast.
That's right. Yeah. Everybody got you.
Okay, I just have to say that my wife literally just turned off a corner and just kind of smiled at me and then walked away.
Keeping that in. So we're out of the teaser and actually into the first act, and we're like, 25 minutes into our episode. In the
Son
Matthews
of a nutcracker.
kitchen. In the kitchen where Corey's all proud of himself.
You taking requests?
Yes, I am.
Swallow your head and leave.
Yeah, Eric never misses a beat to be a jerk.
He doesn't.
Yeah, but I like how this actually sets up an actual plot for Eric.
It
has
does.
nothing to do with what Corey's doing, although he still interacts with the general storyline. Mm-hmm. But apparently, Eric's trying to become a millionaire.
He is, but he's going about it the roundabout way. He's got this Robin Leach scam with the magazines, but what I really honed in on, he went through his allowance. What happened to his job at the Market Giant? Because Alan says, "Come to my store, work, make money." When did he leave his job at Market Giant? He quit and came back at a lower position. When did he quit again?
Well, you see, Brett, Eric doesn't have time for work because girls. Eric has no time for anything because all he does is chase girls. And again, that is an annoyance of this show, is I get that we need the jokes, but it's like Eric has worked an honest day. Like, to say that he hasn't is not correct. Like, he had a job. So just say that he quit his job around the summer or after the summertime because he wanted to focus, quote unquote, on schooling or whatever. And his parents agreed to give him a better allowance. But like, he was making real money.
He
Good
had
real money.
He had a car at the beginning of the season. He is Lucille. Goes
How's he paying for it
downhill,
now?
runs like the wind,
Oh, you want me to move it?
Yeah, so he's gonna get rich because he's gonna, he's gonna get all of Robin Leach's money, and apparently that's gonna pay for the brain operation that Alan and Amy want to schedule for him.
Well, and that's the other thing is, like, some of the jabs they put on Eric is a lot harsher than I feel like there should be. I mean, it's funny, I agree, but like, it's a little too far there, Alan. Although I do like that he says, "You have no idea what it takes to take out a pretty girl." And Amy just looks at him with daggers.
You want to try that again? Yes, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
But apparently Eric already thinks he's won because they printed his name. And who would spend money on ink if they weren't going to let him win?
Yeah, Eric's got some interesting theories on that. I can't really defend his theories.
Yeah, unfortunately, Eric, all these things are scams regardless of what you do or how much money you spend on these things.
Especially when you're buying magazines about Chester.
Yes. Chester Matthews. Well, Brett, we get to apparently the first show of Cory and Shawn's exciting show, and it's about student council.
Yes, because the dance was canceled and they're running a bake sale to raise money so they can have the dance anyway.
Mm-hmm. Ninth grade spring dance.
Yeah. And we'll give some shout outs to Sarah here, played by Hillary Tuck. This is actually the second of 3 girls she'll play on Boy Meets World. We saw her back in episode 2 of this season, playing Samantha. And we'll see her again next season, at the end of next season. And I gotta say, investigative journalists Cory and Shawn or not, I applaud Cory's attempt to try and find an angle here, but it's just not worth it. And Shawn is just even less interested.
Well, and that's the thing is like, okay, so Feeney he introduced the show and then he just played music. So why wouldn't that just be their show of they talk about some things and they play music?
Yeah, I mean, apparently he gave them a topic, but did he give them the leeway to play music or not? Are they only allowed to interview student council members? And clearly there were others that turned them down, and she's the only one that was willing to come on their show.
Right. And there's all the stuff that just annoys me about this whole situation, just on a programmatical level of disorganization that I just can't get on board with this, Feeney. I can't do it. Someone needs to be in charge of this thing. Someone needs to have final say of it. And, this needs to be a thing that is taken serious and actual commitment made. And it's not. And that's annoying.
Oh, Cory, I dreamed we were doing the most painfully boring radio show in the world. And you were there. And you... Oh.
And in fairness, they are doing a painful show.
It is painfully boring, yes.
Yes. But then it gets really awkward because apparently they have phone calls available and they have a bunch of lines, like way too many lines.
Where are these students calling from? The phones in this school would have to be pay phones.
Yes. I mean, okay. And the only way I can see this being the case is if they have a actual phone system in the school in each of the classrooms. And they have the ability at this time to dial different rooms and be able to get a hold of people. I don't know if that technology actually exists because that was always available when I was in high school. And like nowadays, like when I was substitute teaching, all I literally had to do was just go in, and sometimes I would just have to hit a button and I'd get to a specific classroom I need to find information from. So it's not like that. It's not possible. But again, it looks like there's like 20 lines. Mm-hmm. And do you even have 20 lines for a radio station? Also, if you're taking calls, wouldn't you want someone there behind you to be able to double check all those things? Like
someone to screen.
This whole setup, Brett, makes no sense to me.
It's not a legitimate radio setup. Plain and simple.
Yes.
You need an engineer there to make sure nothing blows up. You need someone who understands the equipment there to make sure it's being used properly.
Well, and it feels like Alvin is the only one that can, so why isn't Alvin also in the room?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. Alvin's the one that put it together.
Yeah. I mean, unless technically Cory and Shawn are trained on what to do and how to handle it, but it doesn't look like it. It literally feels like one day Feeney opens it, the next day Cory and Shawn are doing it.
They just got to push a button like this.
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to know the timeline of all of this because it doesn't seem like there's a timeline to any of this. This could
really
be
doesn't.
Weeks going on, this just 1 week, or literally just be a 2-day process. I can't tell.
I can't make heads or tails of that timeline without sitting down with a blackboard.
Yeah. But yeah, Sarah gets a call from a guy named Spencer wondering if she's still dating another person.
Ooh. And by the way, Spencer is another connection Boy Meets World has to The Sandlot.
Who's that?
We don't see Spencer on screen, but in The Sandlot, that was Bertram Grover Weeks.
Which character is that?
Off the top of my head, I am trying to remember. Give me a second. I'm trying to pull up a picture.
Is that one of the real baseball players?
I'm trying to. He would have been.
Sounds like a hoity-toity name.
It does sound like a very hoity-toity name. He had glasses and he wore the LA cap. A lot of the pictures he.
Oh, I thought that kid was already in Boy Meets World.
No, this is the only time that he shows up in, and we don't even see him. We just hear his voice on the phone line.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So in Spencer's call, at first, Cory's trying to have journalistic integrity of sticking to the topic at hand, but Shawn sees an opportunity and takes it.
Yeah.
And apparently, Sarah's going to leave and they're going to go on a date.
We got lunchtime lust.
Yeah, and let's just get to this next problem that I have with this thing, Brett. I get that they are curious of what can happen, but literally a basketball's worth of girls, basketball team's worth of girls walks into the room going, is this a place where we can talk to boys?
These are not bad-looking girls. These are girls that I'd assume at John Adams High could have their pick of guys in the halls.
Right. I assume that these are the type of girls that are like having to shoo away creepy guys, and they want to go and plaster themselves all over this radio station that no one was listening to 5 seconds beforehand.
My working theory is they want the attention.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. But it's just like the episode changes on a dime where it goes from Cory and Shawn have a boring show to Cory and Shawn have the most exciting and energized and groovy
groovy new show on the air.
I couldn't think of a actual 90s word, so I was figured to go with so you think I'm groovy?
Well, speaking of this basketball team's worth of girls, only one of them was really credited, and that's Jasmine, the girl who actually asks the question. That's his.
Don't you mean Jasmine Fontana?
Well, she only got the first name in this episode.
No, she says her last name because the boys goes,
she does.
And if it isn't, it should be.
She does give her last name. I just went by IMDb. I grabbed names of given characters before I did my notes for the episode itself.
Oh, you're fine.
Felipe. I wanted to say Felipe, but that is not how you pronounce the name. Simon. This is actually the first of 2 times she's going to show up on Boy Meets World. She'll show up again in about 3 episodes on Pop Quiz as the same character.
What?
I know.
That's not real.
Jasmine will be back unless they change her name on screen, and I'm going to try to clock that. 61 acting credits on her resume: Sliders, Chicago Hope, CSI, House, Castle, Swamp Thing, The Walking Dead, 911, and a lot more. She's still acting.
Nice.
Yeah. So lunchtime lust is a thing. She sure is, Jasmine. And Cory wants to know, hey, the guys are asking what we haven't heard on the radio yet, if she's a good kisser. And he doesn't know what to tell them.
Okay, again, it's one thing for Shawn to say this. Like, I fully 100% believe that this is a Shawn line, and for whatever reason, Cory is the one that says it.
Cory, especially here and after they get kicked off the air, Cory really strikes me as spouting some Shawn lines.
Yes. It's just that dichotomy of they're still trying to figure out who Cory is and who Shawn is. And it's almost like when they have a storyline where there's the two of them together doing mischief, they aren't sure of who is the one that's actually doing the bad things. And so it just feels like they both end up getting lost in the whole shuffle.
Yeah. And
which okay, real quick, which is why when we get into later seasons, when it truly is Shawn pushing Cory into situations like the not Airbnb, but the bed and breakfast episode,
B&B's like, B&B.
Yes, I said Airbnb. I'm like, that's not a thing yet.
Not yet.
Yes, the B&B. But Shawn fully starts the scheme. And Cory comes in midway through.
Oh, yeah.
And so Cory's responsibility is to help his friend at that point. But Shawn's already started it, where it feels like a lot of the earlier things are the two of them getting in it together, and then how do the two of them get out of it? And so I like that as time progresses, you find out that Cory is more or less having no choice but to follow in these type of schemes.
Yeah.
Now, Cory still will have schemes of his own, but they're more lighthearted and, different.
Yeah. And it's Jasmine really strikes me as odd too, because she's willing to sit here in a room full of four of her friends and two. Jasmine is at least a sophomore, I'm assuming.
Has to be.
Has
There's no
to
way
be.
that she is in 7th or 8th grade.
Oh, no. Jasmine is definitely upperclassman. She has to be at least a sophomore, and she's willing to sit here and plant one on a 7th grader.
Eric should be interested in this girl.
Oh, yes. And she's willing to sit here on air and plant one on a 7th grader just to get attention. There's something deeply wrong with this character.
Right. Well, we know that it's not really the actress or what there's asked. It's not the people that are doing the things. It's what they're being asked to do, and that's the problem.
Yeah, this is not the actress at all. This is the writing.
So, to make a long story short, they get cut off the air, and lunchtime with Ludwig.
Ludwig! Ludwig is a foreign exchange student who played by Justin Thompson. First and only time we're ever going to see him on Boy Meets World. He did not do a lot of acting. Only 10 acting credits on his resume. Quantum Leap and Phenom are the only two other big productions he was in. Most of the other ones seem to be like really background stuff or even direct-to-video things. But Ludwig comes in.
I will say, we get into the next scene. I mean, that character is ridiculous. We both know it. We got to keep moving, Brett.
It is, yeah.
So we don't have time for that rant today. But I do love that Feeney is at the end of class and he goes, "Hey, read chapter 12." And he looks, he goes, "It's about, oh dear, Bill of Rights."
Yes.
And Cory has a very, shall we say, misunderstood understanding of what the First Amendment is.
Yeah.
And Shawn is very confused because on what the First Commandment is.
I do have a chunk of this clipped that I think would be good to listen into.
Tomorrow we'll be discussing chapter 12 in your history books, which would be the Bill of Rights. Oh, dear.
The Bill of Rights from the good old Constitution. And what was that amendment that came first in the Bill of Rights?
I don't recall, but I bet our teacher knows.
Well, then why don't we ask him? Oh, Mr. Feeney.
Freedom of speech.
Hey, isn't that the one where you can say whatever you want?
I believe it is.
And doesn't it apply to everybody?
No.
Any kind of speech, right? Like in a newspaper or TV or, I don't know, radio.
Yes, yes.
Then something is just not making sense here, my Shawn. Weren't we just pulled off the air because of what we said?
Yes, we were. He says one thing and then he does another. He's being a hypochondriac.
What you two said over the airwaves was inappropriate.
Well, according to this here Constitution,
Come on, Mr. Feeney. Don't you believe in what you teach us?
Mr. Matthews, the rights of the Constitution were intended for those with a sense of responsibility.
Well, if it doesn't apply to us, then why do we have to learn it?
This is the nugget that they should have built the episode around. This is the nugget that would be still relevant immensely today.
Right. You mean if instead of having the whole trying to get them on the radio, it was just a cold open of Cory and Shawn on the radio, and almost like this is the first real scene of the episode.
Yeah. If they had built the whole thing upon this conflict of freedom of speech, and they took the time to explain, because Feeney, admittedly, I don't remember a whole lot of Feeney and Turner in depth here, but I don't remember Feeney ever really taking time to break down to Cory and Shawn why exactly this doesn't apply and doesn't cover, or why you have the freedom to say what you want, but there are consequences that come in along with it. Even something as simple as that would have been fantastic to build even half of the episode around. That would have saved a whole lot of this.
Yeah, I agree completely, because this is a personal annoyance of mine, not as a dad, just as a human being and as an American, of, yes, we have the freedom of speech. We have the right to say the things we want to say, but there are still consequences for the things we say. And there needs to be, if for either the positions that we have or have had, if we go on these giant rants of screaming profanities and saying a bunch of slurs out of nowhere, and in our type of jobs, we have to have good character, and if we're shown to not have good character, those are grounds for firing, as they should be.
Yep.
And it's just this annoyance I will always have of people abusing this right and assuming that they have carte blanche to do literally whatever they desire. You don't. And people also have the right to disagree and be angry with you. So it is not the be all end all on I can be and do whatever I want at any given moment, because we still have to deal with other people, and other people are affected by the things we are doing and saying.
Indeed.
Yeah, and I am a little disappointed that Feeney does not do more with this.
Hugely.
Or almost even like sit the boys down and be like, you know what? No, you are sitting here and we are talking about this, and I will teach you about the Constitution and our rights and why we fought for them and why you must learn this.
Yeah, it really is out of character for Feeney, because they took advantage of his trust. He gave them an assignment on the air. They threw that out the window. They threw the script out and went with their own plan. And instead of showing him the respect and sticking to it, or even talking to him about it, they went their own way. So he should want to correct their course here. This is not a situation where it's beneficial to sit back and let them find their own way. This is a situation where he needs to step in and instruct.
Or at least say something to the effect of, go home, read the chapter, and then come talk to me.
Yeah. Because we still don't know that Turner is even their faculty advisor. At this point, we still are under the impression it's Feeney.
Right. Which, to be honest, for a program like this, it should be Feeney. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. This is something that impacts the entire student body.
Yes. Gosh, I really do have get off my lawn energy because I want to skip forward just a little bit, Brett, because they do have this funny bit of they start music and Feeney and Turner are looking for them after Turner tries to argue for them, and it's a great bit and I love it and it's funny, but it's also in the context of they are being complete and total jerks to two people that have dedicated and cared for them and try so much with them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't defend them at all in any of this. I mean,
yes,
Turner goes to Feeney and makes a case for them, and Feeney is willing to take it under advisement. And Turner had already talked to them and said, you guys screwed up. I'm willing to go to bat for you. Wait. And they're so wrapped up in their own impatience, which is it is natural for 7th grade boys to be impatient. I understand that. But I still don't understand how they got Alvin so interested in this scheme. But there's nothing on the screen that tells me why Alvin was so interested in this. But
yeah,
but I cannot defend them in their choices to start pirate radio and to start a new student bill of rights with the first the first right is the right to dance.
This isn't Footloose. Like, Feeney's not taking the right to dance.
No. And this is the point
why you
where
have just a 9th grade dance alone. It feels like you should just have an entire school dance. That makes more sense.
Why do we need a 7th grade Thanksgiving dance, a 9th grade spring dance? Why aren't we just having a spring dance?
Yep. I don't know. And it's just, that's the thing, is that these two get back on the air because Jasmine Fontaine, she really wants them back on the air. And so it's like they convince Alvin to help them. And as funny as it is, being that we've dealt with teenagers for years, to have a teenager disrespecting you this much to your face, it would be difficult to give them any sort of trust and grace moving forward.
Yeah, this is the point where Feeney's nuclear option needs to come in. This is the point where he, as he would put it, I shall call their mommies and daddies.
Yeah, it really feels like Amy and Alan should have been called while he was on the air.
Yeah, this is, if not then, definitely need to be looped in on this point.
Yeah. Well, and also, I can't even believe they didn't have a conversation even over the bushes of, so Cory was on the air today and he was being very inappropriate, so I took him off the air.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan and Amy, as we've seen, would not berate, that's not the right word to put it, but they'd make clear to him of, hey, you disrespected someone that we respect and you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and that's not okay.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't all that impressed with I'm Not a Crook, with the whole election debacle, but even in that 60 seconds or so that Alan was at the dinner table with Cory, that was about the only real interaction Alan had with Cory for the whole episode. But in that 60 seconds, it was probably the most powerful moment of the whole episode. And it was Alan speaking truth and parenting into Cory's life that he needed for that moment, for that lesson, for that story. Granted, Cory, it all went in one ear and out the other. But this episode really could have benefited from that interaction here as well. Even just a 60-second, 45, 60-second moment with one or both of his parents, especially from Amy's perspective.
Well, and again, this begs the question of, did this all happen in one day? They get kicked off the radio and they try to get back on like that day? Or is this the next day? Like what is actually happening?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best episodes of this show is when they can give a close, rough guess of all the time they're spending in the episode. Like the next week's episode, Cory has mono and has mono for a week. Mm-hmm. So everything that's happening is roughly within the scale of a week. Yeah. Makes sense.
Well, I can tell you based on their wardrobe, they're kicked off the day. They're kicked off the air and in Feeney's class with discussing the First Amendment in the same day. And pirate radio is at least one day removed from that. So,
right. So it's just, I cannot believe that there's such a quick transition from we got to get back on the air to we're literally back on the air. Like there's no repercussions at all for Cory whatsoever. I don't get it.
Yeah.
and I didn't say that's not a thing on Amy and Alan. I just think it's something that we did not see. Mm-hmm. And if they, you know what, gosh, Brett, we may have to rewrite some of these episodes.
I'm telling you.
Gosh, because like, why didn't they do anything? They should have done something. This should have been another. Why is my child so godlike, Shawn? Tell me. Just anything to this nature. Gosh,
Yep.
You talk. I'm angry.
Yeah, and I will say the other moments in this episode that keep it from being a complete failure are when they finally find Cory and Shawn, and Turner sits in with them in the broadcast studio and tells them to explain themselves. Now, I will say, from a 21st century perspective here in 2023, there may be some potential privacy violations at play where Turner opens up the microphones and lets the whole school in on the conversation. Yes.
But Cory and Shawn should know that they're on.
Yes, there are literally at least 4 on-air signs throughout the studio, and there should be at least one other big one that they can see from where they're sitting on the fourth wall. But the fact that he is sneaky enough to open the mics and force them to confront their own inadequacies and vocalize them out loud and let them see that there are people in the school that feel like them and that they're not alone, that is universal. And in the Boy Meets World universe, it fits. And I do enjoy that there is some immediate repercussion that Mr. Feeney calls in. He gives kudos to Mr. Turner for how he handles the situation. And he lets Mr. Turner dole out the punishment. And when it's not enough, he gives him a chance to dole out a little more. There's a month's detention at play here. So there we go. And of course, we get Eric calling in.
I say lock him up and throw away the key.
But that closure for them, it keeps it from being an abysmal failure. And I do give Turner a lot of credit in how he handled the situation, knowing he has a lot more patience and grace with them having been undercut and just flat out betrayed like he was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will also say that this is a good representation of Feeney not just trying to teach Cory and Shawn, but of teaching Turner as well. And I think this is it is a light towards who Turner will become someday when he is Superintendent Turner. Which, by the way, one of my favorite bits in Girl Meets World is definitely in one of the few episodes that Turner's there. And Cory just kept going, you know whose fault this is? It's Superintendent Turner. Just constantly. He's like, Matthews.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cory is who he is. Yeah, it is a great moment. It truly is. And it's an awesome moment. And for them to be honest. But again, where does this go?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it goes similar to where it goes for Eric, which is he keeps trying to do a scheme to have a quick answers, short, quick bucks, and it blows up in his face.
Yep. Because Robin Leach shows up at the door.
Yeah, Robin Leach just shows up.
At the richly appointed Matthews household.
Which I gotta say, if you're a celebrity and you're using someone else's house to just sit in on, wouldn't you at least offer like a few dollars of appreciation?
Yeah, seriously, throw a couple $100 at the dude.
Like at least 1,000.
Yeah, so yes, Robin Lee shows up, and of course it's not Eric or Chester Matthews. It's, a neighbor.
Yes.
A neighbor we've never met, we'll never meet again. And, Eric.
Because she moves away.
Yeah. She moves away out of the neighborhood because she hit it rich with $10 million. Mm-hmm. And that's the episode.
Yeah. I mean, as nice as it is that Robin Leach shows up and talks about how wonderful and truly spectacular the Matthews house is, it's really a nothing cameo, because unless you're like really aware of things like this in the 90s, like even today I go, I don't know who that guy is. It could have been anybody. Like it's not like it's the most famous baseball player, currently. It's just
Robin
random
Leach's
celebrity.
Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Yes, that.
Oh, yes. So Tyler, are you calmed down enough from your get off my lawn energy for some deep dives?
No, I think I need to have at least one more rant. My problem stems not from the actors, not from the characters. I think it just stems from the writing in this episode. Everything feels super clunky. I don't know if they were just scrapped for time or something, but just it feels off this episode. And yes, the stuff with Eric, with the trying to do the scam, and him and Alan saying, I believed in you. Don't give your mom any money. She didn't believe in you whatsoever, but I believed in you. Like, that's funny. I don't know, man. It just feels like it was all lazy.
The script needed at least one more pass.
Script just needed to figure out what it really wanted to say. And maybe it just wanted to say that, hey, everybody struggles and everybody's hurting, but we already did that. We're doing the story again? How can I be so stupid?
And learn the same thing over and over again.
I mean, that legit, this is one of those episodes. It's just, we just learned this a few weeks ago and we're learning it again.
Mm-hmm. I have a feeling I'll have to clip that audio bit from season 5 soon. All right. Well, let's divert your attention and get some deep dives.
People. Am I the only one who read the summer reading list?
Alrighty, so high school radio stations, there's not a lot, but there's a few in the country still. The first was in Portland, 1450 AM, the KBPS. It was officially licensed in 1923. Second oldest station overall in the city of Portland. Studio body of Berenson Polytechnic High School. Purchased transmitter and other equipment from the Stubbs Electronics in Portland for $1,800. Yeah, their first broadcast apparently was March 23rd, 1923. The station was made a formal debut on air and was officially dedicated in early May of 1926 between the hours of 9:30 and 10:30. Opening night on the 5th annual Benson Tech Show. there's not a whole lot to say really about it, because the problem is that from what I'm seeing, what they're describing as like an actual station would be like a real radio station, not just like a over the PA type system. I had a official source for First Amendment and all that jazz, but essentially from what I found, yes, students have the right to broadcast and make videos and to write things and protest and do all sorts of things inside their classrooms. However, if it breaks school rules, then the school has the right to still punish said person. There have been, I know, many different cases over the years on what is allowed for high schoolers and minors to do protest-wise and everything. And, you know, things like gathering can be quite dangerous, so that's not something that they really want people to do. But, you know, silent protests, those are completely 100% okay. I can't remember what it was specifically, but I do know there was a case where there was like a group that wanted to wear like a wristband or armband or some sort of band to just indicate of being either against a war or taking a stance politically on something. And the school tried to say, you can't do that. And they're like, yes, we can. And it ended up to the Supreme Court. And they're like, yes, they can. As long as it doesn't break a rule, they're allowed to do it. So essentially, it just comes down to the MPAA has the right to shut them down, and the MPAA in this situation is the principal and or school board. So technically, they always have the authority to shut down and not allow for certain things. So Robin Douglas Leach, born August 29, 1941, and he passed away, unfortunately, on August 24th, 2018. He was a British entertainer, reporter and writer from London, and began his work in print journalism. When he moved to the United States, he hosted a television show titled Styles of the Rich and Famous that ran from 1984 to 1995. So probably was airing its last season during the time period in which the show was going down. But essentially, he just has had many different gigs for hosting and kind of just talking about the rich and famous life. He's made a lot of one-off TV appearances in way too many shows for us to get into specifically. Although famously, apparently he was also in Celebrity Wife Swap. So that's a thing. So I have to tell you that there is no embassy in Philadelphia. However, there is a consulate. So this is what I found. While embassies are primarily concerned with diplomatic resolution and high-level communication between governments, consulates focus on providing consular service and assisting citizens of their home countries in the host country. I take that to mean that the goal there is just to be part of the community and make sure that different people potentially from those original countries are able to thrive and succeed and get help as they need. So there is no embassy in Philadelphia for any country, but there are so many consulates in the area, both one for the Dutch and also for Germans. So
good to know.
Yes, potentially he's covered, but not embassy, consulate. Stop being difficult. Go away. Go away. So, National Publishing Company, the historic book publisher in the United States, is established in Philadelphia by Joshua R. Jones in 1878. Business has a 5-story building constructed at headquarters at the 726 Cherry Street, Philadelphia. The publisher produced Bibles, books of maps, encyclopedias for other books. It expanded with other offices opening in Chicago, St. Louis, and Australia. That's really all I have on that. I will say there's also an American Family Publisher, which is a little bit bigger and potentially is the one that is actually referring to, because one of the first things I found on that is you've won $10 billion. So if they use the other one that is no longer in business compared to the American Publisher Company, that makes sense. But this was founded in 1977 and was shut down in 1999. Unfortunately, there's no chance for us to win $10 million right now, Brett. I'm sorry.
Even if I get Chester magazine?
Yes, even if you get Chester magazine.
Ah, bummer.
And those are your deep dives.
All right.
You know anything about the Odyssey? Huh? Did I say you could talk?
I didn't teach you that.
My friend Mr. Matthews will lead the discussion.
Do I have to draw you a picture?
And now we move to the portion of the episode where we talk about what we learned. And in the case of not learning anything, we make something up. I will go first and share that I really didn't learn anything as a parent, as a viewer, other than this episode was kind of lazy and needed another pass. But I would like to encourage those who watch that there are consequences. You do have the freedom to say whatever you want to say, but there are consequences out there. And, I encourage you to speak your mind, to say your piece, but to be wary that even though Mr. Feeney did not explain himself, there is such a thing as good taste, and there are the right time to say things and the wrong time to say things. And lunchtime lust in a public school is never a good idea.
No.
Tyler, what did you learn?
Well, I learned that there's no embassies in Philadelphia, but consulates.
Well, yes, but you learned that outside the episode.
I would say that from the episode, what I learned is that I'm going to take this in the lens that maybe Alan and Amy weren't really paying attention to what Cory was doing and what's going on. And so I think the thing I learned is make sure you follow up, especially if you know your child is starting something new and is different, and make sure you get details. Mm-hmm. What happened? What was going on?
How was your first day behind the microphone?
Yeah. And if your child is being a little sketchy about what happened, ask someone else, and someone is going to give a truthful answer to. Because I feel like the way they write this episode, Al and Amy just dropped the ball and didn't pay attention a lick to what was going on with Cory. Yeah. And it's not like Eric is doing a lot that they couldn't pay attention to, or Morgan was doing a lot.
Agreed.
It just feels like an episode that's like, you see, middle child gets ignored. And it's like, well, I know it feels like it, but if my parents in middle school, high school knew that I was going to be doing something with the school and like my voice is going to be going out there, they would ask questions.
Yeah. I don't see them kind of ignoring you on that one. So.
I'm right?
No, you're exactly right.
So am I done with my education? Can I go?
How would you grade on the air?
Oh, gosh. You go first.
I'm going to be forgiving because there is a nugget of something in there with the whole First Amendment message, and there is there is something there with Turner at the end. I'm going to give it a C-. It's not a complete failure. There is something there to keep it from failing, but it's very close.
Well, I know this is thinking a week ahead, but to quote Mr. Feeney, I'm going to give you an F+. Hello, Cat. Mostly because you didn't do well, but you're still my favorite show. So there we are.
Wow, 2 Fs from you in a season.
I can't. Even a D, I can't do it. I'm furious about this episode. Like, these are the type of episodes that I just have always ignored because I just for whatever reason, it just never really clicked for me. And now that we're watching it with more of a critical lens, I'm like, gosh, I just can't. Cory and Shawn are the bad guys in this episode. They don't have an understanding of who they are right now. And it bothers me so.
Fair enough. So, in your anger and your ire, do you have a dad joke for me?
Oh, dang gummit. No. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Here we go.
Okay.
Brett, I only know 25 letters of the alphabet. I don't know why.
There's a classic. Well, good-looking people. That's going to do it for this week. Hopefully a week of rest will soothe Tyler's soul.
My vast emotional damage.
Yes, that's right.
Vast emotional damage.
And next week, we'll be back, and we'll be looking at another episode, and
They want you to take the roles.
They want you to take the roles!
that's right.
Nutcase?
You think?
So you can find us online, find us on our socials at Dads Meet World. Send us a message at dadsmeetworld@gmail.com. And hey, if you like this episode, by the way, Kelly likes this episode. So I want to find out what she would grade it.
Yeah, I want to find out too. Those are fighting words for me now.
That's right.
Hey, everyone who ordered your John Adams Shark shirt, thank you so much.
Yes, we were able to raise a good chunk of change, and we'll be sending that out soon. And yeah, so thank you everyone who ordered shark shirts. That sale, that option is now closed. The sharks have gone extinct. We'll probably bring that back next year. And yeah, so thank you very much, everyone. That was fantastic for our little podcast. So if you got them, wear them proudly. Send a picture, post a picture, and tag us with it. At dadsmeetworld or hashtag dadsmeetworld.
Yeah.
We want to see them.
We do. We want to see those sharks of John Adams all over the place.
That's right. I got mine. I'm wearing it while we record tonight. It finally came.
Yes. I don't know where mine is. It's probably in the dirty clothes.
Well,
I worked
Tyler,
quite a bit this weekend.
until next week, I'll see ya.
They want you to take the roles.
You can find Dads Meet World on Facebook, Twitter, and probably a few other places just by searching for Dads Meet World. Dads Meet World is a production of Headfirst Studios. Headfirst Studios. Tell your story.
A lot going on, and oh, darn gummit. Sorry. Technology. I hate you. So we just have a lot going on. As we're looking at this as dads, and hi. I help you. That's okay. Aye.
Is he going after something else he's not allowed to have?
Just messing with the cat.
No. Well, that's allowed.
You know, it's just mostly annoying.